Well, here it comes.
What's up, guys? We are joined with a very special guest. We have Darren Burns here. Darren, if you were paying attention to Barstool Sports, pardon my take, this summer kind of blew up this summer, right? With one of your posts that you made about how long you've been playing the game of football. Let's dive into that a little bit from the jump.
Yeah, well, I actually didn't make the post. I did it on my Facebook and somebody else shared it out. So if you look at the Barstool post, they don't even name my name on it. It says the football guy.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden people started recognizing me saying that's Darren Burns. And it just kind of took off from there. And I don't know, it had 70,000 likes, I think it had, and like 20,000 shares or something stupid like that.
That is
So
crazy.
it blew up. So it was pretty good.
No, and I can
It
only
was a pleasant surprise.
I can only imagine that brought a lot of attention your way that you probably weren't expecting, right? It's just crazy how internet things can just blow up in 24 hours. And so what was that like? I mean, that first,
I was not expecting it actually
really
to the point that
the waves and all that.
Well, I was excited that the word was getting out, but in hindsight, looking at it, my Facebook page got hacked. So now it's shut down right now. So I had to open up another one temporarily to go on it because this guy took control of it. So I guess with the fame comes the other stuff too.
Yeah.
So right now it's under suspension. Well, not suspension, but they're trying to figure out who owns it. All they got to do is just check my Instagram out. They'll figure it out and then do a video with me, but it's Facebook. So it's been a week that's been shut down. And the guy had my dying uncle on there, and I'm selling all these cards that I don't even know I have to get down payments and stuff. So it's all locked down. But I opened up a temporary one to go for it. But yeah, being famous does have its highs, and I guess it has its frustrations.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I know with a lot of this, a lot of people were just paying attention to the fact that you've been playing football for so long, but then like you were telling us before we started recording, it's actually helped shed light on a personal mission that you're kind of on. Let's dive into that a little bit and just kind of what your story is. And a lot of people be super surprised that it's more than just a 61-year-old playing professional football or competitive football. It's a lot more than that. Let's hear a little bit about your story.
I decided to play to my mentor's football number, 61, which was my number, to honor him. He passed away in 2013 of pancreatic cancer. Bruce Smith, he was from Texas. He played to the Philadelphia Eagles and Toronto Argos and Hamilton Ticats up here in Canada. I was never a football player. I never played football until I was 14. I decided I was in a group home, and I decided to go to a camp. But prior to that, if you go back in my life, my father was 24. My mother was 16. They had me. They had this fight. I had my 1.5-year-old brother with me. I was 4.5 years old at the time. And my parents had a fight and they took off and they were gone for 9 days.
Wow.
Nobody took us. So after 9 days, the police came with my grandmother and social services and the superintendent. I guess the smell of shitty diapers and all that good stuff that was going on. So they came in and I was actually in the kitchen baking an angel food cake. And when they came in, I was 4.5 and, so anyhow, I was taking care of my brother. So we got taken away, stayed with my grandma for a bit, and then they returned us to my father. My father, he drove trucks, so he hired babysitters and he hired male babysitters that turned out to be pedophiles. So from the age of 4.5 until I was 6, I was raped at least 200 times, I figure, by male babysitters. My brother wasn't harmed because he was too young at the time. So I went through that, and then my father would get evicted out of an apartment, get moved here, got evicted out. I was stealing food from grocery stores at the age of 7 in order my brother and I could eat. My father used to religiously beat me up, like a broken jaw, broken nose, thrown into the ceiling, dropped on the floor. And then I was placed with my grandmother, and then my grandmother placed us in the Salvation Army Children's Village in London, Ontario, where a worker there who was a pedophile raped me again at the age of 10 for a year. He gave me cigarettes, stuff like that. So I went through all this abuse and physical, emotional, and being raped as well. So it really had a hard thing on my life. Meeting Bruce at that camp, I was fortunate. That was the day that my life changed for me for the better, because I actually met a person. He gave me crap for hitchhiking, drove me to my group home. But the next day, He showed up at my group home to take me to the gym and lift weights, and then got me a job as a ball boy for the Toronto Argos. So I was 14 as a ball boy for the Argos. Bruce was the captain of the team. The other two ball boys was Eric Metcalf and
Mhm.
Alonzo Highsmith. We were the three of us were ball boys on the team. Their dads played on the team and stuff like that. The head coach was Forrest Gregg, who Vince Lombardi said was the greatest football player he ever coached. So I was a ball boy under Forrest Gregg. So I learned the game that way. And then when I was 15, I decided to play junior football, which would be like JUCO in the States. And I was 15 playing with 18 to 22-year-olds. I made the team in
Man.
1979. I was a receiver and tight end. And then I just worked my way to Bruce's position, which was defensive line in 1984. And my childhood was not great. I don't think there's too many 10-year-olds in the world that have gone through what I've gone through and what I've seen and what has happened to me in my first 10 years of being on the planet. But I've used the sport of football to help me get through it all, the frustration, the anger, all that kind of stuff, the confidence too, because it gets stripped out of you. And so I decided to play to this age just to bring awareness, stand up and say, listen, I'm 6'5", 300 pounds. I've done every level of football there is. But this is my story. Hopefully it brings courage to other people to come forward with their story and talk about it, because it destroys you when you've been abused. And if you don't get help, and I never got help because back when I was growing up, it was not a thing you talk about.
Mhm.
So for me, it was very difficult. It's hard on relationships. It's hard on a lot of things because you lose that development. And I have a saying that you can't expect a tree to grow without roots. So how do you expect a child to? So I'm hoping that my story will help other people come forward and talk about it to make changes. Because in society today, we look at homelessness, drug addiction, suicide, and people that are in prison. 80% of them are abused. People that are homeless, they're not bums. They're just giving up on life. We have to process it in a different way. I used to look at them as bums because I was successful making money and doing that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I've been through what you've been through and I've got a job.
Mhm.
Difference is they didn't have Bruce. I'm trying to make people understand, and then hopefully we can start fixing the problem.
Yeah.
And I think that, prayers and all that religious stuff that goes on in life, it's great, but prayers are what Christians say to make themselves feel good. They don't do the work. We have to do the work
Yeah.
and then
Absolutely.
believe that something's going to change. In the Bible, I'm far from a Christian, but in the Bible, faith without works is dead. That was what Bruce's motto was in life. In other words, you see something, you do something about it, and then you go home and you pray, but you do the work first. And that's kind of what I want everyone to understand, is that we've got work to do as a society because it affects us all in so many different ways. So, yeah. So, like I said, football found me, and playing to this run to 61 years of age, the mission was to honor Bruce because I lost him 12 years ago from cancer. Yeah. I wanted to keep his memory alive as long as I could.
Man, that's unbelievable. It kind of reminds me, you talk about doing the work, right? And me and my brother, we were just talking in one of our recent episodes. I had gotten a comment on one of our videos about how much time we spend and it's just high school football, right? And so we had the conversation of, we're nothing gives us greater pleasure other than maybe seeing our families when we get home from work than running into a former player and just reconnecting and seeing that he's doing better in life and maybe hashing out old stories and things like that. And I think your testament kind of proves that, right? That mentors and just the connections you make, like you are changing possibly the trajectory of some of these guys' lives. And you don't always know it until some time later, right? But that's what really stuck with me, is it kind of, as a public educator and a high school football coach, like it kind of gives me some more conviction that what I'm doing matters
No,
more necessarily than what's happening on the turf, but just with the lives of these guys.
the football games when you're in high school, we tend to value things on winning and losing. And high school especially, like it's all about the wins. It's all about all that kind of stuff. I asked people who won the championship 8 years ago in your conference, who won it 9 years ago, who won 11 years ago. No one can answer.
Nope.
So at the end of the day, your job is to take a young man and mold them into something.
Yep.
That's your job. That's what your job is. If you want to be, there's three kinds of coaches. There's a coach that just coaches. There's a coach that wins. But the coach that has the impact in a person's life, that's the biggest coach. That's the best coach because it's about life. The odds of playing pro are slim and none. The odds of going to university are slim, but there's a chance. And these kids can go Division I, Division II, Division III, JUCO. There's so many opportunities for them to get free education and stuff like that. So football gives that. But that's what you guys do is you develop these young kids and give them opportunities. You get kids that have come from broken families. You get kids from this. You give kids hope. And that is what coaching's all about. It's not about winning at your level. It shouldn't be. At the pro level, yes. At college level and the big things, yes. You guys are teachers, and you're there to teach the kids life. You're not there to teach them how to win football games. It's great to do that, but teaching them and making them better men and better humans and get them to understand what it's like to work with other people, whether race, color, religion, what have you. That is what you guys. That's your job. It's not about the W's, and that's where I get crazy when I see high school coaches. A good coach gets fired because he's not winning games, but all his kids are going to university and they're all successful in life down the road. How do you evaluate it? I mean, you go 25-0, but all your guys end up homeless.
Yeah.
Okay. You end up 0-25. Everyone's off and being successful in life. Where do you rate yourself as a coach? Because we're giving our kids to you guys to develop to be good young men. So that's my opinion on coaching. So I think that what you guys do is great. I couldn't do it. I don't like parents.
It makes it tough.
I have a problem with parents. Like I can tell you a story, but it wouldn't be a good one to have on the show. But I basically, I was coaching at a high school, and the parents at the end of the season, we lost in the semifinals. All four of my defensive linemen made first team All-Star. My defensive end made defensive MVP out of 26 schools. All four of mine made the first team All-Star.
Sheesh.
And at the end of the season, I was told that I didn't have anything to work with. But at the end of the season, the parents had a lynch mob meeting with the teachers. I'm not a teacher. I don't teach there. I was just volunteering. But I was in on the meeting, and I was listening, and they were berating the teachers, and they're saying, we should have won this. We should have won this. We should have done this. We should have done this. So I stopped, and I couldn't take it anymore. So I only coached 1 year of high school football. So I said to this one woman, she was really bitchy. I said to her, so you want championship football? She goes, yes, we do. And I said, really? I said, so who won it here? And nobody can answer the same thing I just said to you. But I said, if you want championship football, I tell you what, go home and breed us some better athletes because we did the best that came out of you. Mic drop. Like it was beautiful. But I had like F and a few other words in there. It was very direct. But that's where I stopped coaching football.
Oh man, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. There's some parents that are exactly all you could ask for, right? But then there's some in every crowd, right? That just like you were saying, the perception and just everything's so misconstrued about what we're trying to do. Like you said, winning is great, but at the end of the day, we're talking about 15 to 18-year-old kids who've got a lot of life to live.
If you're teaching them just life is all successful about winning, then you're sending the wrong message because you know something? That ain't going to happen all the time. There's going to be some losses. There's going to be some hard times. And, the kids have to learn how to work through it. And how better to work through it when you're with a group of players that are working through it together. So
what I've ran into is parents, and I get it's their children and everything, but they always think, and I love all my players, but they're not all future, first round draft picks. And every parent kind of falls into that trap, I think, of seeing their kid as the all-star on the team. Why isn't he getting more playing time? Why isn't he playing over, little Johnny or whoever, when they don't see the side we see at practice, the things we're working on. Mm-hmm. And it's good for a kid to deal with that adversity, I think. If he's running with the twos, he wants to be on the ones. Well, you got to put in some work. You got to work on certain things, get your technique right, get in the weight room, everything to get there. And I think that's a great lesson for kids to learn. And I think parents kind of lose sight of that a lot of the time, unfortunately.
My son, he ended up playing football. He got up here in Canada, but he got recruited to go to Episcopal High School in Alexandria, Virginia. So he went down there for 2 years and made first team All-State Virginia. And then offered Tennessee Tech. He went there for a bit, and then COVID came, so he came to Canada and finished his school at McMaster University. So he got 2 degrees, and he's done extremely well for himself. Now he's going to be a police officer.
Let's go.
But he went through it. But I've mentored 12 kids till this day in developing them. And my latest project is the captain of Boston College. Logan Taylor, offensive tackle, And when I met him, he's 14. He was not going to play football and all this stuff. I ended up sending him to Episcopal. Got 25 offers. He's 6'8", 340 pounds right now. He's slated to go in the first round of the NFL. But every player that I've mentored has made it pro.
That's awesome. Magic
12
touch.
for 12.
Magic touch. Hey,
Well,
I got
you gotta look for that thing in the you gotta find that. I have a trick, and you guys are teachers, so you can appreciate it. I always ask a kid, he says, "Can you help me in the weights?" So I taught him about lifting weights, stuff like that. But if a kid asks me, "I want you to show me what it's like to get the pro," I turn kids away. They give me the report card. They got 90 average. I won't even look at them. It's how they get the 90. So if you look at a report card and you look at the in class, and then you look at the exam results. So you see a kid in class is doing an 80, and then on exam he does 95. That tells me he's lazy. Because he's not willing to do the extra work to make that 100 because that 80 is low. So he's always, I'm just a game guy. I'm going to show up. I look for those guys that those two scores are together. And if they're smart. So that shows me that they're pushing themselves hard there and they're pushing themselves hard there. And that's just a little trick. So I can evaluate a kid by looking at his report card in 5 seconds, whether he's worth my time or not.
Yeah. And I think that's the hardest thing to kind of convey to, especially as these younger generations, right? It's instant gratification. They expect instant results and they expect it to be the results that they're dreaming about, right? And the hardest thing to get them to buy in on is just the process of it all and how it's literally every day and it's being consistent every day with, championship work ethic.
Now you're talking to a guy that quit school in grade 9 because I had to. I went to 27 different schools by the time I got to grade 9.
Wow.
So it was very hard for me to focus in on things. So, but this is just the life experience that I've learned, and by being around some great coaches that evaluated me. I played for Marv Levy. So, Marv Levy's a pretty good football coach. Been in the Super Bowl 4 times. The Bills, and then he was at the Chiefs. He coached at the Montreal Alouettes, where he was my coach. So, you always learn all these things from all these great coaches and stuff. So I'm like a street kid, so I'm like absorbing all this stuff in. But yeah, getting back to my childhood upbringing, I was I was 15 playing with 18 to 22-year-olds. So I was always called the kid. And then this last year I was called OG. So, it's like the old guy, right? So it's, I've been through the spectrum of it. I've had some great teammates, some great opportunities and stuff like that. But football's really saved my life. And it was guys like you, the coaches that had huge influence in my life. And so, my coach this year, I was his captain 37 years ago. And I was calling him a coach out of respect.
Heck yeah.
Because I'm respecting the position and stuff like that. So I had a ref come up to me and goes, "You played for the Oakville Longhorns after the CFL for 2 games, and then you went back up to the CFL." And I go, "Yeah." He says, "You were my snapper." He says, "My hand still hurt from catching your snaps." 6/10 of a second bullets straight back.
Man, just darts.
But and then another ref came to see me on my last regular season game and in Hamilton. And he showed up. He just said, "I had to come and see you play because I refed you 30 years ago. And I can't believe that you're still playing." And my junior coach would come to all my games.
Man.
80 years old. He's out there watching me, cheering me on. And after halftime, he could, "What do you do?" So it's been an amazing experience that I've had with football. I mean, I owe everything to the sport. So, it's been, meeting Bruce, opening the door, showing he was the first person that ever showed me unconditional love. He was the first person that I truly looked up to. He's the person that took the time with me and stuff like that. So I think guys that have played pro football or playing pro or even college stars that not going to play pro, they can have we still have value. Even today, I'm 61. I have value still. I'm still, inspiring people. I'm still doing things. And there's nothing reasons why all these guys that leave the sport and don't give back to the sport. It makes me crazy. If it wasn't for football, I wouldn't be where I am today. So, we've got to learn to give back. And it's not about the dollars and cents. It's not about that. It gives you purpose. it's about giving back and being a good human being.
Absolutely.
That's what the sport.
100% agree.
One thing I did have to ask, was there any kind of a gap between your most recent year of playing, or did you kind of just keep it?
I took 9 years off.
So what was that like, trying to get yourself kind of revved back up to be able to roll again? I'm sure that was, I don't know. I mean,
that was hard. I played and then I stopped playing, and Bruce and I, we hung out and stuff like that, but then he died, which I still to this day can't process it. It's traumatic. But so I let myself go. I got to a 47 waist. Yeah. My son looked at me and he said, "Dad, what the hell happened?" So I looked myself in the mirror and I said, "Okay, I got to do something." So I dropped him at the airport to fly back to his university. And the next day I went back to the gym and took a picture with my belly hanging out and everything like that. And I didn't remark the date. So I was in the gym lifting. A month later, I looked at the date looked at the picture, looked at the date. It was the anniversary of Bruce's death, the same day I started. So I started training. My body started to come into shape. And then my son goes, "Dad, did you know that nobody's ever played 6 consecutive decades competitive football?" I'm like, he says, "If you play this year, you can be the first person." I was like, "Great." So I started training, and then COVID came. So the season got completely wiped away.
Yeah.
So I had another year to train. Then I found I had cancer. So prostate. So I had to work on overcoming that. Got a divorce, all the things in that time. Made it back to the field. And my first season back, I led the league in sacks.
man,
And I went from 47 waist, and that year I played, I had a 38 waist. And I was weighing 305. The next year, well, now I'm 295 with a 34 waist.
heck
And
yeah.
I run a 5.640, and I bench 225 I did 26 reps this year, but I used to do 37 in my prime.
I'm gonna have to get your
I used to
routine.
I used to run a 4.7 540 and bench 37 reps at 225 when I was 22. Now I run a 5.6 3 and 26 reps. So I'm getting old.
Shoot, man,
That's still pretty good, man.
you're still blowing a lot of people out of the water, man. Don't sell yourself short. That's
So
awesome.
I've had 5 knee operations, and stuff like that. So it was a fluke to get back. And then it was like, okay, for 1 year. And then I led the league in sacks. So I upped it to another league and led there. And it just, and I've been playing nose tackle.
Yeah, that ain't.
And I'm, and I start, I'm the captain and I play. I'm not a guy that's cheering on the sidelines. Like I start and I play. So every game. And you can't get me off the field. So I'm not that guy that, I had a fumble recovery this year. I had 3 sacks this year, 8 tackles. It knows it wasn't my best year for stats, but
Hey, don't sell
when I
yourself
played
short.
defensive, it was that I could see that, I'm starting to age. I'm falling off this and that. Like I said, I played this year with a torn left bicep, completely severed.
Man,
Yeah,
My patella, my right knee's torn. So both those are very painful to play with, and I didn't miss it down.
that's awesome. Nowadays, we got kids that'll stub their toe and they're gone for 2 weeks or something like
Yeah.
that. That's awesome.
Not this guy. It's an honor to play the games.
Yeah.
So, I just, like I said, football found me, and it was just a good outlet for me to release my anger.
Mm-hmm.
When I was younger, I played with a lot of anger, and then I learned the game. So it was my anger that catapulted me into the game. This last 5 years, I don't want to say I played with anger. I played with love. I went from an angry young guy to a loving guy. So it was just, but I still can knock your ass in.
That's what I like to hear. Comes full circle, right? No, that's awesome.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny you mentioned that because my book is 61 Never Forgotten, but we were going to call the book Full Circle.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
I like the 61 Never Forgotten is good too. Speaking of the book, I know that's something that it's growing a lot, right? I'm sure, with the recent virality of the social media and all that, it's probably got a lot more hits, but let's dive into that a little bit. At what point did you decide this was something you wanted to do? And what was your approach when you were developing your book?
Well, during this comeback, I was with a friend of mine and we were driving back from Ontario to New Brunswick, which is like a 1,100-mile drive. So I said, I'll drive Ontario, you drive Quebec, and when we get to New Brunswick, I'll carry on. So we made it to New Brunswick. It was about 3:30 in the morning. And I said, Gabe, are you okay? He said, yeah, man, okay. I said, okay, the next exit, I'll take over. So I reached down, started doing up my shoes. It was the middle of March. There's still snow. All of a sudden I hear,
Oh,
into a snowbank. We rolled 125 yards. We rolled 8 times, like over and over. We're upside down. I had blood coming out my ear, and I broke 6 ribs. And this is
Oh my
6 weeks.
gosh.
This is 6 weeks before the season starts.
good.
And I had a concussion from the accident because the airbag exploded literally 2 inches from my head. I didn't allow it to affect. I made it. I made the starting tee. I played the season with broken ribs. I did all that stuff. But what it did was, when you've been abused and raped like I was, and all the stuff that I went down, you learn to develop building blocks in your brain to kind of lock everything up so that you don't go crazy. Okay. This accident shambled them all. Like, they shot, they all came falling down. So I didn't know what to do. And I was talking to a friend of mine, Jody, and she knew about my life and stuff like that. So we said, let's just start writing things down. So we start writing things down. Next thing you know, we're making a book. And the book became therapeutic for me for doing that. And that's how the book came out, was basically because of the car accident. It was more therapy. So we went through my entire childhood all the way up, because it's good for the memory, it's good for this. So we talked about all the abuse. We talked about my highs. We talked about my accomplishments. We interviewed people that remember me from playing, went back in certain levels of my career that I impacted their lives. So it's been that's how the book came out, was because of the cause of the accident. It was
Man.
for therapy. So it's kind of like I found football by accident. The book came out by accident. And it's been getting great reviews. It was a #1 seller for a while. Yeah, it's and now it's being taken over to being in 27 become a movie. So we'll see where.
Wow.
And this nice thing about it is that, you know, we look at all the things in life, racism and all that stuff. And it was a black guy from Brownsville, Texas, picking up a skinny white haired kid on the side of the road, hitchhiking. Brings me back to my group home. Next day shows back up, and takes me to the gym with the weights, and then gets me a job at the Ball Boy, at the Argos, and just, became my father figure in my life. The story, if you've seen The Blind Side, this is the carbon copy of it. It's a black guy helping a white guy out, but it's the same kind of story about pulling me up out of the ground and giving me and making me successful.
That's awesome. Absolutely unbelievable. 2027, you said, right? Is possibly the release time. That's awesome.
Release, yeah.
And the book 61 Forever.
61 Never Forgotten.
61 Never Forgotten. And that's available digital.
You get digital, you get it on Amazon, in Canada, Indigo, anything online. Just put 61 Never Forgotten on the internet, and bang, the book will come right up.
I was about to say, I just bought it while we were talking, actually. So I'm excited to read it, man.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's going to be
Well,
awesome.
I'll enjoy the 5 cents. 20 more of them, I'll get myself a coffee.
There you go.
That's awesome.
But I use the money from the book sales to take kids out. Like, I take boys and girls clubs out. Before games, I would rent a bowling alley. I take 150 kids bowling and buy them pizza and pop. I've rented out movie theaters, and I brought all the kids. I always try to do things to help the kids out. And when I came back to Hamilton to play, I had the kids from the Boys and Girls Club run me out onto the field with the loud music and the fans. I had them jump in and stuff like that. And boom, let's hit the tunnel and let's go. Right. So I just try to give them a little taste of the excitement and stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's incredible, man. That's incredible.
Yeah. It's never forget where you come from.
Absolutely. Well, Darren, we appreciate your time. I know it's late up there in Canada. I don't want to keep you up too late.
Oh, it's my pleasure, guys. I listen, talking football, I can talk all day long.
Hey, I know how that is.
I love it.
If anybody out there listening wanted to get in touch with you or be able to keep up with you, what are some good avenues they can reach out to you?
Well, the best, because Facebook's been hacked. So go to my Instagram, Darin, DARINJ61 on my Instagram. I did open up another Facebook one. There's one that doesn't say it's hacked. The other one says I was hacked. That's the one you can go on and you can see some pictures and stuff like that. But I'm looking forward to. We have my podcast. It's going to be coming out at the end of the month, called 61 Never Forgotten Podcast, and it's going to be basically each segment is going to be about the book all the way through to the 24 chapters. And the first one is the Genesis one, which is going to be the producer Andre the Beast. He wants to do the Genesis one, so I'm going to fly to Toronto and interview my brother, who I've only seen about 4 times in my life since all this stuff had happened. It'll be the first time that he and I have ever talked about the abuse that we went through. So it's going to be a very emotional
can only
It's
imagine.
gonna-
I can only imagine. That's going to be
Well,
awesome.
you guys are brothers, so can you imagine
Yeah.
not seeing each other for 30 years and then you sit down and talk about being raped and beaten?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
that'd
can't.
be-
So that's going to be segment 1. You know, it's going to set the tone of everything and the effects, because it's just going to be pure raw emotion.
yeah.
I'm not giving you a list of the questions. I'm showing up. My producer's going to be there. They're going to start filming it. I'm going to knock on the door, come inside. We're going to sit down and just talk. It's just going to be a pure thing. So we're going to show me in my studio, then on the plane, and then flying down to see them, and then the interview will happen right there. And then after them, the rest will be done up in the studio, and then produced in Indianapolis. You know, that's where my producer's from. But it's going to be an interesting podcast, because it's going to go through the different things. There's going to be some highs, there's going to be some lows, and there's going to be a lot of fun. You know, like I like having fun. So I'll have some crazy guests on. I got some Hollywood actors and things like that I've grown up with that are in the book. Wrestlers from the WWF that are in the book.
Yes.
Those are all
Ooh,
like
wow.
Hulk Hogan was a friend of mine. Ultimate Warrior was a friend of mine. Randy Macho Man Savage was a friend of mine. These guys used to all come to my house when they were in Canada.
Wow.
That's
So they're all
crazy.
dead now. You know, so I was talking to Paul Roma, who was with Hercules. They were Power and Glory. There was 12 of us at my house. There's 9 that are dead. So, you know, like I'm going to be meeting Paul next week in Montreal, because he's up for a signing thing in Montreal. So I'm going to go up and visit with him. He's only about an 8-hour drive. But yeah, so the podcast will be an exciting thing to watch. You know, and the thing that I'm doing with all the podcasts that I'm on, I'm saying, okay, when are you on? When are you on? So I do not want to compete time zones with anybody, because I want you on my podcast. I want your fans to come on my podcast, and I want your fans to be on mine. It's kind of like what the late show guys are doing.
Yeah.
Like you see Jimmy Kimmel, they're all mixing up around. Well, it just keeps the spotlight on that entire zone. So if you're great on a Sunday and I'm on a Monday and this guy's on a Tuesday, and we're saying, hey, you're going to check Darren's podcast out tomorrow, or you're going to check so-and-so's on Sunday, we boost each other up with our numbers.
Absolutely.
And we become our own network, basically, you know, like go to yours, go to mine, you know, that kind of thing. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do. After the book podcast part is done, I don't know, I might discuss men's mental health. I might discuss, I don't know where I'm going to go with that after that, but right now I've got 22 episodes that I've committed with the producer, and we'll see where it goes from there. You know, I really appreciate being guys on your show. I have a great admiration for you guys, what you guys do working with kids. It takes a lot. And I just hope that you have some successful kids that come out the chute like I did. You know, a lot of guys, one guy mentored me and changed my life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We appreciate it so much, Darren. Thank you for giving us your time tonight.
Okay, I appreciate it. God bless you guys. Thank you. Bye now.
Too.